It is a beautiful day here in New Hampshire. It is the last day of winter. Tomorrow will mark the first day of the spring equinox, which is 2024. Falls on March 19th at 11 p.m. though. So technically it's not the first day of spring tomorrow, but I'm gonna celebrate like it's spring. It is one of my favorite seasons because it feels like renewal and regrowth and coming back from the sleep and from hibernation. And I'm celebrating with green, which is my favorite color. For tomorrow is the first day of spring. So I decided that I wanted to go and browse my bookshelves in effort of reading from my shelves because I love books. I love collecting books. I love having books around me. However, I keep accumulating them without reading them, and a lot of these have been on my shelves for a long time. I tend to buy used books, a lot of used books through library book sales or online. Very rarely do I buy brand new books. Now some of these are new from like Book Outlet or my own ordering from Book of the Month or Amazon, or other indie bookshops. However, I tend to, again, try to do used books as much as possible. Having said that, in an effort to condense the purchasing, I need to read what I have on my shelves. And so I wanted to go through my bookshelves and browse just like I do in a library, which I will be going to a library after I do this video because I need to pick up some orders. I went through my shelves and decided that I wanted to pick out some books that were calling to me that felt like spring. I did a little bit of research and to see what other people were saying were books that were good to read in spring. And then I decided on my own that I wanted my own list as well to just see what calls out to me that I might want to pick up this year. Now, having said that, a little caveat, I'm in no way saying that I'm going to be reading these in the spring because I am a huge mood reader, meaning that if I assign myself a TBR, meaning a to be read list, I will not read any of them. That's just me. It's my nature. I like to be random. Whatever feels right at the moment is what I will read. And so I am just putting these aside as, hey, these are possible books you might want to read since it's springtime. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and show you what I picked off my shelves. Some of these I don't even know what they're about, so we will together look into my phone and see what they are. The first one probably needs no introduction. I was actually surprised. There was one website that recommended reading this in the spring. I'm assuming that it does take place in the spring, and that is Pride and Prejudice. Now, I should say that I have not read any of these books. I was going to pick up books that I've read in the past, but these are all books that I have never read. I have never read Pride and Prejudice, which is surprising. I have tried reading Persuasion, and I think I got like a little over a quarter of the way, and a third of the way, and I just couldn't. I don't know what it was with I was not in a place. And I think I tried doing that in 2020, so I was probably not in a headspace of trying to read that book. I will come back to it, but I feel like I'm the last person on earth to read this, and this is an epic story that a lot of books allude to or are books that are inspired by this. A lot of people talk about this as one of their favorite romances. I have even avoided watching the movie because I want to just dip into this first and then watch a movie about it. And this is the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. It doesn't even give you a blurb. This one does not give you a blurb. But this is a pre-loved copy, as you can see from the coffee stains. I'm okay with that. I just love this copy. My copy of Jane Eyre is in the same edition, and I just love it. And it does have deckled edges, which some people don't like. I don't mind them. I do find like sometimes it's a little harder to, and I believe this is almost like a enemies to lovers type of trope, if you want to call it that, from what I understand. I'm assuming that a lot of people have already read this, which is why I'm not looking it up to give you a blurb. But yeah, so that's the first book on my list. So the next book that I have here is Ready or Not. and this is by Cara Bastoni. I got this from my Book of the Month box in February, I believe, and I still haven't read it because I need to finish one book that I'm on right now, but I do possibly want to read this in the coming month or two. This is a surprise pregnancy leads to even more life-changing revelations in this heartfelt, slow burn friends to lovers romance. I love all kinds of tropes. It really depends. I do not like the miscommunication trope. I like the enemies to lovers. I love the friends to lovers. Miscommunication, no, not at this age. Not unless it's really well set. Not at this age. The next book that I have here from my shelves, I probably have had this for a long time. This one is A House for Happy Mothers. I just looked at the bright color of this and I was like, this makes me think of spring. And this is by Amoya Maladi, which she is a favorite, kind of like a favorite author of mine because I've read a few of her books that I've really loved. She is an Indian author, and I'm usually really attracted to learning about Indian culture. I've really enjoyed some of her books in the past. We're gonna go ahead and read the synopsis really quickly here. In the trendy Silicon Valley, Priya has everything she needs: a loving husband, a career, and a home, but the only thing she wants most is a child she's unable to have. In a southern Indian village, Asha doesn't have much, raising 2 children in a tiny hut. She and her husband can barely keep a tin roof over their heads, but she wants a better education for her gifted son. Pressured by her family, Asha reluctantly checks into the Happy Mother's house, a baby farm where she can rent her only asset, her womb, to a childless couple overseas. To the dismay of friends and family, Priya places her faith in a woman she's never met to make her dreams of motherhood come true. Together, the 2 women discover the best and the worst that India's rising surrogacy industry has to offer, bridging continents and cultures to bring a new life into the world and renewed hope to each other. Whoa. That's definitely interesting. I will be definitely putting this on my pile. The next book that I have here is kind of like this one. When I saw it, I said, yes, this reminds me of spring. And it's on a little, I'll have to give you a reason why. And I've never read this, and I've had it for as long, I think it's since it came out, which is pretty sad. If you're a book lover, you understand. You have books on your shelves that you've had since like forever and you just haven't read them. Station 11. I have not read this yet. And this is by Emily St. John Mandel. I have the next one in the series, so I need to get the other one because I know I will be continuing with this. This is a book that supposedly takes place during a pandemic. And I believe this came out in 2017, so it was pre-pandemic. And the reason it reminds me of spring is because, as you know, 4 years ago, what we went through, it was springtime. It was just at the end of the winter. And so when I saw this, I said, oh yeah, that reminds me of spring. Every time I see this book, it reminds me that this takes place in a pandemic, which is why I've been avoiding it for a little while. Because I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready to read about a pandemic when we just got over one. So I think I'm fine now. And just to give you a quick synopsis here, an audacious, darkly glittering novel set in the eerie days of civilization's collapse, Station 11 tells the spellbinding story of a Hollywood star, his would-be savior, and a nomadic group of actors roaming the scattered outposts of the Great Lakes region, risking everything for art and humanity. I'm not going to go any further. I think that this will be definitely something I want to move up on my, I definitely want to read this year because I can't believe I'm probably one of the only people that haven't read this book yet. The next book that I have here in my hands, I've had since last year, since it came out, and it has since really been very popular because it has another book that has followed it, and I should probably get that one just because it has a beautiful cover. I know, I'm such a cover buyer. But a lot of people have loved it as well, just as much as the first one. The book that I am speaking of is the Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I have always loved fairy art. I've always loved learning and just anything that has to do with fairies. Is when I was a young girl, I loved that movie Labyrinth. I'm sure you've seen it. Love that movie. I've watched it numerous times, and my favorite parts of that movie is where they show the fairies, and that's where I learned that there were some good fairies and not so good fairies. Anyways, this book is about a fairy who has work to do, and that's really all I know. I've heard some people talk about it really lightly, and I usually, like I said before, I love going into books not knowing too much, because part of reading, the joy of reading for me is the discovery aspect of it. But I'm going to see if it has a really quick blurb. A curmudgeonly professor journeys to a small town in the far north to study fairy folklore and discovers dark magic, friendship, and love in this heartwarming and enchanting fantasy. Cambridge professor Emily Wilde is a genius scholar who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore, and Emily lives for her work. She empathetically prefers the company of her books, her dog, Shadow, and the fair folk to other people. So when she arrives in a hardscrabble village in the far north, Emily wishes only to focus on her studies. She certainly doesn't have time for another new arrival, her dashing and insufferably handsome academic rival, Wendell Bamblebee. I love it. Who manages to charm the townsfolk, muddle Emily's research, and utterly confound and frustrate her. I need to continue reading this. But as Emily gets closer and closer to uncovering the secrets of the hidden ones, the most elusive of all fairies, lurking in the shadowy forest outside town, she also finds herself on the trail of another mystery. Who is Wendell Bamblebee, and what does he really want? To find the answer, she must unlock the greatest mystery of all, her own heart. I kind of want to read this next. This sounds so good. This is definitely going to be on the top of my list. The next book is a book that is very popular here on BookTube. It's popular everywhere and has been pushed into my hands because I feel like I'm the only person who hasn't read this, and I've heard so many people say that I need to read it, and I finally gave in and just bought the whole damn series because I can't just do one. I can't just buy the one of the series. That's just me. This book definitely reminds me of spring because of the cover and the title. And that is A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I've never read anything by her. I think I have her Crescent City book when it first came out, and I said, oh yeah, I want to read that. And I have been told that I shouldn't read that unless I'm going to read this first, the whole series. Now, from what I've heard, people fly through these, so the fact that they're super thick shouldn't scare me. More fairies and more fantasy. I don't know much about this. I'm trying not to hear too much about this because I just want to go in blind. I remember starting this on audio and I was not down with the narrator. I just couldn't. And so I put it down several times. So I'm going in with my own eyeballs and reading this one. 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods. A terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows about only from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal immortal fairies who once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. Yeah, so I'm not even gonna read the whole back because I'm sure all of you who are watching probably read this already. The next one is actually pretty obvious why I chose it. The First Day of Spring. Now look at this cover. Oh, I love blue. I love blues and greens and black. This color, I mean, this cover is amazing. From what I understand, this is like a thriller, so it's not all spring vibes, but First Day of Spring. I don't even know exactly what this is about. From what I understand, it's kind of like mystery, thriller, suspense. I'm not quite sure. Let's see. Meet Chrissy. Chrissy is 8 and she has a secret. She has just killed a boy. Nancy Tucker leaves the reader breathless as she inhabits the protagonist with a shocking authenticity that moves one from sympathy to humor to horror to heartbreak and back again. Do you guys want me to read this whole thing? Okay, I'll just give you a little more. She just killed a boy. The feeling made her belly fizz like soda pop. Her playmates are tearful and their mothers are terrified, keeping them locked up indoors. But Chrissy rules the roost. She's the champion of handstands and wall walking and almost everything else. Best of all, now she has a feeling of power that she never gets at home, where food is scarce and attention scarcer. 20 years later, Chrissy is living in hiding under a changed name, doing all she can to forget who she used to be. But the past is starting to catch up with her, threatening to take away the one thing she cares about, her 5-year-old daughter, Molly. Whoa. This is what I love about shopping my shelves. I have amazing books here and I need to friggin' read them. What I love is that spring doesn't have to be all flowers and beautiful and puffy skies. It can be this, which that's how I do my reading. I do awesome, beautiful, fluffy, heartwarming to something that will scare the shit out of you or make you like rethink things. Yes. Moving on, I should probably cut this short because there's a lot of books here. Author that has been highly recommended from so many sources that I tend to listen to or watch or even read. And this is an author I still have not read anything from. I've put her books on my shelves to read and I just on my like TBR to read and I never get to it, but I don't know why. And she's so highly recommended. And I thought that, okay, this book feels like spring, I think, but does look like fall. But the name of the book, and there's fairies on here, that's a theme. That's a theme. The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. Like I hadn't been looking at her name for 2 minutes. I don't know what this is about, but there's fairies on here. The word garden makes me think of spring. Let's see what this is about. A tiny girl is abandoned on a ship heading for Australia in 1913. She arrives completely alone with nothing but a small suitcase containing a few clothes, and there's a sticker over a word. Great. Something beautiful volume of fairy tales. She is taken in by the dockmaster, sticker raised as their own. On her 21st birthday, they tell her the truth. And I should probably put my glasses on because I'm losing it now. I can't even. Okay, that's better. On her 21st birthday, they tell her the truth, and with her sense of self shattered and very little to go on, Nell sets out to trace her real identity. Her quest leads her to Blackhurst Manor on the Cornish coast and the secrets of the doomed Mount Ratchet family. But it is not until her grandmother Cassandra takes up the search after Nell's death that all the pieces of the puzzle are assembled. A spellbinding tale of mystery and self-discovery. The Forgotten Garden will take hold of your imagination and never let go. Yes, I'm down for that. Let me know if you've read this and what you think about it. Okay, I have 3 books here. I'm going to just choose one because April is my birthday month. And when I keep seeing this book, I think springtime, birthday month, Black Cake. And I've heard amazing things about this book. This was a Book of the Month book club pick, but I never picked it during that time. It was a Read with Jenna book club pick as well, which I tend to vibe with her picks most of the time. So I figured it's my birthday month next month. Why not have cake? Black cake. Wow. Yeah, I just said that. We can't choose what we inherit, but we can choose who we become. That is 100% correct. And oh, I should probably say who this is by. I'm sorry. Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. In present-day California, Eleanor Bennett's death leaves behind a puzzling inheritance for her 2 children, Byron and Benny, a traditional Caribbean black cake made from a family recipe with a long history and a voice recording. In her message, Eleanor shares a tumultuous story about a headstrong young swimmer who escapes her island home under suspicion of murder. The heartbreaking tale Eleanor unfolds the secrets she still holds back and the mystery of a long-lost challenge everything the siblings thought they knew about their lineage and themselves. This is a debut novel. Story of how the inheritance of betrayals, secrets, memories, and even names can shape relationships and history. Deeply evocative and beautifully written. I think that sounds amazing. So the other two books that I am not going to go ahead and share here, I'm just going to mention them really quickly because they kind of give me the spring feel, but I'm not going to go into them. If you've read these, let me know what you think and I can add it to my possible list. You have The Ensemble by Aja Gabel. This is a used book. It was it's an ex-library book. I don't know what it's about, but there's that one. And then there is Evie Drake Starts Over by Linda Holmes. These both have been highly recommended, again, from different sources. So if you've read any of these, let me know if I should keep them on my TBR, spring TBR, or not. But I didn't want to have to like make this video super duper long. Those are a lot of books. I love reading. I love books. I need to read what's on my shelves. And so I hope that I give you some inspiration to look at what you have on your shelves so that you can read from them. That is one of my goals this year, is to read a lot of what I have, because I have a lot. Again, I'm not putting myself on no damn can't buy books ban, because that's just not even right or realistic for me at this point. I hope that you are inspired to look at your shelves and that you are looking forward to some new spring-like books coming starting tomorrow. Let me know what you are looking forward to reading, or what is one of your favorite books that you've read that took place during the spring. If you have read any of these books that I've mentioned today, let me know and tell me your thoughts. I would love to hear from you down below. Thank you again for stopping by, and I will see you guys later.